All right, hey, Nick here, and I saw Licorice Pizza. If you know me, you know how much I love Paul Thomas Anderson. He is my favorite director, and loved all of his movies. He made my favorite movie of all time, Magnolia, and I was really looking forward to this movie. I've been looking forward to it since the moment Phantom Thread ended in 2017, and I saw it. I saw it yesterday, and it's great. It's absolutely great. Probably the best movie I've seen all year, and I've seen some really good movies, some really good movies, and there's some more coming out that are also going to be good. But it's Paul Thomas Anderson, so I just wanted to quickly talk about a few things with Licorice Pizza. This is his ninth movie, although unlike Quentin Tarantino, he's not a douchebag who is advertising it as the ninth film from Paul Thomas Anderson. Although I love Quentin Tarantino. And this movie actually is very reminiscent of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in that it is a memory piece. It's a free-floating sort of embrace of the early 70s, whereas Tarantino's movie was about the late 60s. And it is that great sort of memory piece about it. It's interesting because the movie takes place in 1973, which means that Paul Thomas Anderson was 3 when these events took place. But he remembers it, he remembers certain things about it. I was 8 in 1973, pushing 9 at some points in this movie. And so I was roughly the age of the main character's younger brother. And there are a ton of things about this that I remember. I remember the clothes, I remember the music, I remember the feel. The way that things looked very specifically in the 70s is captured brilliantly by the amazing art direction and the incredible costumes, and the cinematography, which is mostly shot by the great Paul Thomas Anderson, who's now just shooting his own movies to add to the incredible talent that he already has of writing and directing. So the movie stars Cooper Hoffman, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, and Alana Hayim, who's from the rock group with her other 2 sisters, Hayim. And she plays a 25-year-old girl who is kind of struggling with her career and trying to figure things out. And she meets this on the verge of 16 teenage kid who is a child actor who falls in love with her immediately. And they begin this sort of interesting relationship over the course of some time. And it's about that. It's about these 2 people, this 25-year-old girl who is living in LA, and this kid who is a child actor also living in LA, and about how their paths cross and some of these things that they try to do and these sort of schemes that the kid has, that Cooper Hoffman has. Gary Valentine is his name. To try and make it in the world and make it together. It doesn't have the sort of incredible drop of narrative that Paul Thomas Anderson has been experimenting on his last few movies. Phantom Menace, oh my God. Phantom Thread had more of a structure to it than a lot of his other movies before that. Inherent Vice especially. And The Master, he had sort of, and even There Will Be Blood, he messed around a lot with narrative to the point where it almost kind of didn't exist, where he was just telling a story in crazy spurts and it was really not structured at all. It was just kind of something that would, flow over you. And there's a bit of that in this movie, but mostly it's a pretty, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's definitely an end. To it, which is not the case for some of the other movies that he's made recently. It's more of a memory piece. So it's about these 2 people and the people that populate their lives and the adventures that they have. And it's done in vignettes and segments, but it's a story that is emotionally told from beginning to end really beautifully. So the soundtrack is amazing, early 70s stuff. And I kind of personally identified with this movie because, listen, the first girl I ever kissed, I was 10, she was pushing 16. And, she was kind of the first girl that I ever had a sort of a love for. I mean, I was a kid, just a little kid. And that went on for a little while. And when I hit the age of 16, I started dating a girl who was 20, almost 22. And I dated her for 3 years. So, yeah, that wasn't a problem. Anyway, so in this movie, this kid who's like on the verge of 16 is in love with this girl who just like turned 25. So there's that, who is basically out of this kid's league. And so I could identify with the movie took place in the 70s. And yeah. So anyway, I had like a weird identification with it. But the thing that's great about this movie is that it is in and of the period and the place. Paul Thomas Anderson, well-known California kid, and his movies that take place in California, like Magnolia and Boogie Nights and Inherent Vice and Punch Drunk, there's a real authenticity to it. He grew up in the business. His father was a voiceover artist and, you know, and a TV host, a horror film TV host. So he's a kid from, you know, L.A. and it shows. This, however, the story is based on Gary Getzman. Gary Getzman, who is now the producing partner of Tom Hanks, who started out as a kid actor, appeared in movies with Lucille Ball, who is portrayed basically as a different, her last name is different, but it's Lucy, played by Christine Ebersole, who's basically playing Lucille Ball, and she's fucking hilarious and great in it. And it's based on Gary Getzman's adventures as a kid actor, and he kind of took all of these stories that Gary Getzman had, he put them together with this lovely little romance between these two people that are so different. And it's not a romance that's kind of together. It's kind of one-sided for some of the movie and one-sided on the opposite part. It's a wonderful, 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 wonderful story. So anyway, into this life that these two kids have, the main kid, Gary, has all these schemes to make money. One of them is to sell waterbeds in 1973 when waterbeds didn't really take off yet. And so the Alana character helps him out, becomes his partner. They do that. They try to sell pinball machines together. And in between, they have these adventures with all these characters who may or may not have actually existed. Sean Penn is in the film. He plays basically a version of William Holden, who kind of tries to like seduce Alana in some offbeat way. They have this scene that takes place in this restaurant / bar called Tail of the Cock, which was a real place in LA, and has many crazy stories. Anyway, Sean Penn plays like a William Holden guy. Tom Waits is in it, basically playing a version of Sam Peckinpah. There's an incredibly weird scene that takes place in and around this Tale of the Cock involving a motorcycle, which is based on a story that in real life, in the real Tale of the Cock, Evel Knievel showed up one night in the bar, got loaded, made a bet that he couldn't jump 2 cars, and he broke his leg or something, and they kind of recreate that with the Sean Penn character in the movie in a very funny way. John Michael Higgins, who is hysterical in this movie, shows up as a guy who's opening a Japanese restaurant, who they try to get to advertise their mattress company for. And his scenes are ridiculous and hilarious. Bradley Cooper. What to say about Bradley Cooper? He plays John Peters, the hairdresser turned movie producer who for a while was dating Barbra Streisand back in the 70s. And he's in the movie for about 15 minutes and total. And he's fucking unbelievable in this movie as John Peters. Hilarious. Now, I'm not sure why they sort of changed the name. Like, Lucille Ball is not Lucille Ball in the movie. William Holden is not William Holden in the movie. Sam Peckinpah is not Sam Peckinpah. But for some reason, John Peters is John Peters. And there's a long sequence involving Bradley Cooper that is just unbelievably funny, and some of the best shit that he's ever done on film. Just priceless stuff. There's this sense of family in the movie. Obviously, Cooper Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who was best friends with Paul Thomas Anderson, who directed him in some of the best work he's ever done, like The Master and Boogie Nights and, of course, Magnolia. And to have this kid, play this part, it works on many, many levels. A family situation as well with Alana Haim, who she and her sisters are in this incredibly popular band. And her whole family's in the movie. Not only are the other two sisters in it, but her mother and father are in it. And their scenes together, the family dynamic scenes together in the movie between the Hyams, the mother, the father, the sisters, are awesome and natural and often really fucking hilarious. So there's all this family thing that's happening within the movie. Leonardo DiCaprio's dad is in this movie as a waterbed salesman. Steven Spielberg's son, Ted Demi's son, Tim Conway Jr., Tim Conway's son is in this movie. So there is this sense of family, which is something that is in all of his movies, in all of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. Paul Thomas Anderson's movies are about, a lot of them are about people desperately trying to find a family. It's a makeshift family, a real family, any kind of family, whether it's all screwy or all good, and sometimes it's painful, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So of course this is going to be, a theme that actually, seeps out into the casting and what the movie, and how the movie was made. So it is hilarious. It's really, really funny. It's really, really sweet. The music is amazing, the soundtrack. There's a scene in the movie, one of the most romantic moments in the film, about a third of the way, a little more than a third of the way in the film. This relationship between these two characters, between Gary and Alana, the 25-year-old girl and the 16-year-old kid, where it's really probably not going to work, but they know that there is a connection. There's this beautifully romantic scene, the most romantic scene, I think, in the film. And it is all done to the song Let Me Roll It by Paul McCartney, which is not one of his biggest songs. And I have a personal connection to this because I directed this play called Top Shelf about 15 years ago or so, and my friend Scott Oken wrote it. And there was a very, very wonderfully romantic scene in that play. It was a dance scene and a romantic scene between the two leads, Scott Oken and the beautiful, the late, great, the amazing Aaron Myers. And that scene was choreographed to Let Me Roll It by Paul McCartney. And it was Scott's choice to do that. And we put this whole scene together. Heather Tyler was the choreographer on it. I directed it. And Scott and Aaron were together in it. And it turned out to be this beautiful moment in the play, my favorite moment in the play. And the song is not, you wouldn't think of it as like beautiful and romantic and like lush at all. And I thought it was an odd choice that Scott picked it. And it fucking worked. It worked beautifully in the play. And I was really proud of that moment, and so was Aaron, and so was Scott, and so was Heather, who choreographed it. And it was one of my favorite moments that I've ever directed in a show. And it was this beautifully, shamelessly romantic moment, all done to Paul McCartney's Let Me Roll It, which is not intrinsically a very romantic song. And God damn it if Paul Thomas Anderson didn't use it in the movie. I almost fell over. I couldn't believe it. So anyway, hey, great minds think alike. Scott, by the way, I told Scott about this. I texted him and said, hey, Paul Thomas Anderson used Let Me Roll, and he said, I'm suing. So there you go. You got a lawsuit coming your way there, Paul. So anyway, it all works. It's all great. It all has this real hypnotic effect. And like I said, some of the subplots are hilarious. The smaller roles, the cameos by the big stars are great and funny. But what carries this movie are the two leads. Cooper Hoffman, making his film debut here, Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid, is really, really great, charming and funny and heartbreaking at times. But the real star of this movie is Alana Haim. She is a star. A star is born. And she is magnificent in this movie. From the very first moment she walks on screen, she's captivating. You can't take your eyes off of her. She's funny. She's acerbic. She's heartbreaking. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful performance. Easily one of the best performances of the year. And along with Agathe Roussel from Titane, it's one of the greatest film debuts in movie history. Two of them this year from Agathe and Alana Haim, two actresses who just made remarkable debut performances. She's a star, man, and she's incredible in this movie. It's a great performance. So overall, it's P.T. Anderson, man, and it is beautiful. It has an incredibly satisfying ending. It does meander. It does kind of go all over the place, like a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies do, and I love that about him. It's the best film I've seen all year, and it is. I have to think about it. I have to see it again. I will see it many, many, many more times, but I have to think about it before I rank it in terms of the greatness of the Paul Thomas Anderson's movie. He's never made a movie that's under 4 stars. He's never, ever made a movie that isn't a 4-star movie, and he's made a few masterpieces, and this one, I think, is pretty high up on the list of great films of the 8 that he's already made, now the 9th one. So it's a great movie. So, Licorice Pizza, it opens, I believe, Christmas Eve? Christmas? Something like that. I was lucky enough to have seen it, and I believe I will probably see it a couple of more times before it opens, I think. But officially it opens, and I can't recommend it highly enough. If you were around in the early 70s, you're probably going to get a kick out of it, from the music to the costumes to the vibe to the feel. If you're a fan of LA stories and stories about like the business, this movie's full of them. If you just want to laugh, if you just want to be entertained, if at times you want to be sad and introspective too, there's a lot of stuff going on here, especially with a subplot involving Benny Safdie, who's running for mayor. There's a wonderful little subplot in there that gives you a lot to chew on as well. It's a great film. Paul Thomas Anderson is the best director on the planet right now. It's a gift to get movies from this guy, and this is a gift. Licorice Pizza is a gift. It's a great movie, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I know that the Music Box, it's going to open wide in Christmas time, but so you can see it in any theater. But the Music Box here in Chicago is going to show it in 70 millimeter, and they're going to be doing that after Christmas. So keep your eyes peeled, check it out. I'm going to definitely go to the Music Box when it opens in late December to see it in 70 millimeter. So Paul Thomas Anderson does it again. The fucking guy is the best. It's a great, great movie, Licorice Pizza. It's beautiful. It's sweet. It's really funny. It's shamelessly romantic and very emotional, which is, one of the keys to all of P.T. Anderson's movies: emotion and style and beauty. So Paul Thomas Anderson does not disappoint. He never does. Licorice Pizza is amazing. I think it's pretty much of a masterpiece. And again, I want to mention Alana Haim, who is an extraordinary talent, and you're going to see a lot more of her as the future progresses. So anyway, Licorice Pizza rules. Go see it. Enjoy the veal.